Bombshell Brunches, where your hosts Raquel Rudenberg and Christina Lau sip and spill with badass babes every Tuesday morning.
Welcome to Tuesday, everybody, our darling bombshells. You're tuning in to the weekly podcast. I don't know, I felt like being really formal.
Tuesday.
I was like, I'm going to try something different. Raquel goes, Tuesday.
It was like bursting out so
I know, I saw you waiting. I saw you just waiting for your moment. Well, good morning, bright and early, everybody. Welcome to today.
Which is the day.
Today's the day. We're gonna go straight into our. We've been so looking forward to this guest for such a long time, and I have to give credit to Raquel again for finding such an awesome, badass babe. So thank you, Raquel. Who's going to do learning, loving, loathing first?
I can start.
Okay.
So I am loving, and I start with loving today. Sinterklaas is around the corner, which is our Dutch Christmas. So that is all fireside family, yummy treats. It's just like the most feel-good time. And so I'm very, very much looking forward to that. Learning, definitely some takeaways from the podcast episode that you're about to launch into. One of the biggest things that I think I took away was the money psychology piece. And she talks about, Mykail talks about surrounding yourself with money in order to attract money. And I think also just to opening your mind, and she talks about a number of different psychological tips you can do, and it was so feel good. I actually got chills at one point. I was like, yes, like
Me
so
too.
yeah, it can really, really change your mindset about money. So I thought that was a really good one. And I just don't really feel like I'm loathing anything today. So I'm gonna leave that one.
I love that. I am loathing things, so I'll just take your loathings.
Perfect.
But I am learning how to live well. That's one of the things that I've learned over the last few months. You know, I made a decision to move to a new space and create the environment for me to succeed. That was the environment that I perceived as being able to help me elevate. And I did that. And I'm really learning how to live into it now. I've just painted this space. So
Beautiful.
Thank you. And it's going to really help me. And I can feel it already. I can feel that elevation. So I'm learning how to live well. I'm loathing the amount of work I have to do. I feel so far behind. And Raquel, you've been amazing at being so supportive of me. I love that. For those of you who don't hear behind the scenes, which I'm sure as we go on, you will more and more, but Raquel literally almost every day tells me to stop checking my texts until I'm actually ready to reply, because I try so hard to get back to people so quickly because I have such a great deal of work to do. So I'm loathing the amount of work, but I am really loving the ability that I currently do have to work. I recognize that that's a great privilege in this climate. And I'm loving the fact that I have a space to be in. I have supportive people around me. And I have, you know, a platform with you, Raquel, that helps me to speak to geniuses like Mykail, who is incredible at breaking down information and making it really accessible and helping more people to succeed. And we had some conversation with Mykail both before and after the podcast, and she just didn't stop giving us useful information. We didn't want to leave. So with that in mind, I think there's not much more to say, is there?
No, I think it's time to jump right in. Hello, bombshells. We have Mykail here with us today, who's the founder of BougieBudgets.com, a financial literacy blog for millennials and Gen Zers. Can you say Gen Zers? Mykail is a financial literacy consultant with an MBA focused on accounting. She speaks the Gen Z millennial language, making positive money moves easy. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to chat with you ladies.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really, really jazzed. I've listened to Mykail speak before. Raquel, actually, I have to give credit to Raquel for finding Mykail's details, and we were both just so excited to have you. So I'm going to jump straight into this first topic because I have a zillion questions for you, but I'm going to try and contain myself. So, so topic number one that I want to get out of the way first is your history. And it's so fascinating because I've heard you speak about it on a podcast before, and I've kind of read your bio. I love that you say very proudly that you're a first gen graduate. And I would love for you to speak a little bit more about that, because that grabbed my heart straight away from my own family history. You have an MBA. I want to know how you fell in love with money. And I know a little bit of the answer, but I'd like for the rest of the bombshells to know too.
Yeah, so I am a first generation graduate. So my parents, they have 6 children, and I am the youngest of 6. So my sister and I, the one sister that's like right above me, she also graduated from college. So she was the first one to graduate, and I was the second. But I'm the first one to have an advanced degree in my family. And education was always super important to my mom and dad. Not that they did not go to college, they did have that option, but when they were growing up, they had other things to do. My dad also, he was one of the oldest of 5, so he decided to go into the military, and that was his way of helping to provide and helping my grandmother out, because she was a single mom of 5 children, and she had a disabled child. So there was a lot that my dad sacrificed to help, and what they really, really loved was education. And my parents, I give everything and know everything to them for that, and I'm so grateful for it. So when I went to school, I studied accounting, the most exciting major you could ever think of. But I actually started learning accounting and finance in high school. So I took my first accounting class in 10th grade. And from there, I kind of really fell in love with not just money, and the power of money and what money could do, but the system. And a lot of people skip over, they think that accounting is just like being super great with math and knowing all these math equations. I'm terrible at math. I know money and I know how to look at a system and understand what's wrong and what's right with it. And it's just like, when you're really good at something, just keep going. And that's really how I ended up where I am.
I want to, because you were only in your accounting class for 1 week when you first started. You were like, I'm going to leave. This is just an elective that I'm going to take. And I wanted to ask you, because you did mention this on one of your podcasts, one of your interviews. From a career pathway visibility perspective, when you have young people who associate accounting with math, what can you tell them that's different? That's like, no, this is what's actually magical about accounting. Like, this is the magic that you fell in love with. And I know you've kind of said it, but I want more specifics.
So for me, I realized that number one, money shows up in everything, right? Money is in your personal life. Money is in business. Every business, there is not one business around that does not have an accounting department that does not deal with money. And that is where I found the beauty in. And why I get so passionate and I get excited about telling people to get into learning about accounting and learning about finances is that you don't have to be an expert. You just have to know what's going on and knowing how to read your own paperwork. So actually, my dad was like one of the ones who really pushed me to stay. And he was like, if you don't learn it, then people are going to steal from you. And that was really why I wanted to stay
Smart
too.
dad.
I loved it. And I really thought about that. I was like, damn, somebody could steal from me.
Somebody's gonna steal my money.
And that is true. It's true because a lot of times, and especially with personal finance, we relinquish so much control because we feel like, some of these topics are too big for us to understand. And it's really as simple, very simple as just reading. And I'll let a secret in, like Michelle Obama says, most of these banking people are not that smart. Most of these accountants are not that smart. They just read.
Yeah, we're just humans. We're all humans, right?
Exactly. And I think that's what I didn't want anyone to steal from me, and I wanted to always have some type of control. And I also grew up in a house where my mom was in charge of the finances. So to me, in my head growing up, I thought that all women were in charge of finances.
I love that. I love the representation. We've spoken so much recently about representation mattering in various ways. And it really does, to look up to somebody and realize that you can be in that position, and then realize that that's not the norm. Raquel's mother is like a super badass. My mother is just an absolute angel, and so talented and multilingual, and we just take it for granted, and then we're like, oh, you're not all doing that? Oh, okay.
Right. I think I found that out in college, where like my mom and we've always had super in-depth conversations about money, about like paying off debt, about how to get money, whatever. We've always talked about money. And I'm talking to one of my friends and I was like, yeah, me and my mom were talking about my taxes, and they're like, you talk to your mom about taxes? And I'm like, yes. Doesn't everybody, like, no one else talks to their mom about like tax preparing? No, just me?
Yeah.
So I did not realize that everyone didn't come from a house that openly talked about money, and not in a sense of not having enough, and not in a sense of paying bills. That was not the only relation to money that I grew up talking about. And again, I grew up knowing that women held the purse, women made financial decisions. So it was far beyond me when I found out that the world absolutely does not work that way.
My mother was the same. She does all of the remortgaging, all the financing, all of that stuff. She just really quietly does it though. Like she just kind of creeps around, and you're like, what happened? We just saved $100,000 on that. And she'll say, like, she won't say like the amounts of money, but she'll just be like, oh, we just jiggled like this, and this. And my dad will just be sitting there like eating a sandwich going like, what?
Yep. Sounds about right.
So tell me about the MBA, because Masters of Business Administration, I don't know a lot about whether or not you can choose to be focused on a certain set of subjects with it, or like how did that tie in? Tell me more about the MBA.
So I actually went to a school where they had a specialized program, and only about 20 of us actually got through the program. It started with like 100 people. So,
Wow.
that's how it really whittled down. And depending on this type of school you go to, you can absolutely have something that's a little bit more specified. Accounting was always my focus. So all throughout college, I took mostly accounting classes, and that was just to prepare me. Like, I don't have a CPA right now, but if I wanted to register and sign up to sit for the CPA, I could absolutely do that. And I did that in a very strategic way, because I wanted to make sure I gave myself as many opportunities and options with a business degree, because a business degree is pretty general, right? Like I said, every industry has a business department. It just really goes to like what type of business you want to focus on, because there's so many different areas, and then what aspect or what industry you want to focus on, because the accounting is also different based on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
When I first went to school, I thought that I wanted to be in like fashion or, be a buyer and be on that side. I work in defense, so we see how that how that shook out. But still doing the same things, and it's still the same type. I just wanted to give myself options. And I knew that also, as a Black woman, there are a lot of odds stacked up against me. And I wanted to make it as hard as possible for someone to tell me no.
And I want to let Raquel jump into the next topic, but before I do that, and only if you're comfortable, but that's a really interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up with these invisible barriers to entry that then become very, very visible and very tangible. What can you say to other people who are also from the BIPOC community, or if you're listening in England, from the BAME community, for people of color,
Mm-hmm.
underrepresented, marginalized communities? I love that you just stacked up all of the things that you could so that they weren't barriers to entry. How do you give someone the fuel, the inspirational kind of words to find ways to do the same for themselves without losing steam? Because it can be exhausting.
It definitely is exhausting. And I think number one, I was super grateful for going to an HBCU, which is a historically Black university. So I went to Hampton University, and I was surrounded by people who looked like me, but also who has survived in the corporate arena. Like my
Okay.
professors worked for the NBCs, worked for the major banking and accounting firms, and they put us in those positions to win. But they were straight with us. They let us know what it felt like to be in a space where something as simple as your name is triggering, or your name is
Pause for
something
judgment.
where cause for judgment, where
Mm-hmm.
so that means my resume had to be 10 times better just because I know that they were going to trip over my name. And I still have to correct people that I've been on a team with for months at this point, who are still pronouncing my name wrong, who still, for something as tiny as that, where you can't even pronounce my name correctly, or, I have to continuously prove myself at work and know and understand different language and different jargon, because that's what they're going to give to you. And, it sucks, but there has to be a pioneer, right? There's always got to be somebody first, or it won't ever change.
I
And
love that you said that. So I just got goosebumps from you saying
it
that.
and it sucks. It sucks. No one wants to be the first. No one wants to,
Mm-hmm.
because the first takes the hardest fall, takes the most punches. But once the first happens, it's going to be so much easier to have more people in, because I'm not an outcast. I'm not going to sit on the side while these big corporations are taking the dollars and growing. Like, I belong here just as much as you are, just as much as all of my other counterparts. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I had to actually honestly tell myself. Like, I would drive home from work sometimes, pre-Rona, and I'd be like, I deserve to be here. I have worked just as hard, almost probably even harder, to be here, and I deserve to be here because I do excellent work. And that is what I had to tell myself every day from work. And that is something that really does, it helps me keep going.
Mm.
I was just gonna ask you what you do to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's, and I'm assuming that we talk a lot, based on this brunches that we started all these years ago, we talk a lot about our support systems.
Right.
And I'd like to know whether or not that's something that you have built up for yourself, whether it be family or, friendships and mentors, champions, people. I like that you spoke about, seeking out an institution that you can relate to the people who are there.
Right.
Did you consciously go around supporting yourself with a kind of a group of people that really inspire you?
You know, I'm doing much better at it. And honestly, I am going to be super 100% 100% transparent.
Good.
Where it gets really hard because I also grew up in a time, or grew up in a family where you have to be sometimes just a little bit more quiet, and it's eight voices going on around here. So sometimes your voice gets drowned out, and it's I am doing much better with the networking, and with finding people and being open to telling people about my struggles, or where I need help with, or just like opening a conversation and say, like, I just want to talk. And it's gotten to the point where I'm feeling better at being a better networker and being a better communicator. But that absolutely, it's not like I jumped out of the woodwork and just started. And I'm looking back at college, I could have done so much better, but I still do have like professors that I can text to this day and just say, hey, like, how are you doing? This is what I'm going through. Of course, my best friends, whenever I'm going through a tough time, I have that circle. And then I'm also finding that you can always have friends in so many different spaces and different pockets for every part of your life. So when I started the business, I don't know, it got really hard because I didn't have anybody to really talk to about certain things. None of my friends from college are entrepreneurs right now. They're coming up. I'm excited what they do. But when I started, it was just me. So it was really hard. I didn't have anybody. If somebody was talking to me crazy, or if I had a crazy email come through my inbox, I didn't really have anybody to reach out to, be like, hey, like, what should I say to this? Or let me tell you about what happened. And this year I got really more strategic about making those type of partnerships. And I'm so grateful that I stepped out of my comfort zone, and I said, hey, I want to have some friends in this industry, and I want to be a better networker. When I got intentional about that, I really did get some wonderful business friends, and it takes a minute. It takes a minute to be comfortable. So here we
great.
are.
I love that you did that. Mykail, I'll just go forever otherwise, that.
So one of the things that I thought was really, really interesting when I first heard your podcast episode, you had a very different methodology. And one of the things that kind of hit home to me, and now I might be jumping the gun here, we might have to go back and backtrack a bit, but one of the things that kind of hit me was you talked about investing, and you talked about how a lot of the conventional methods of investing don't fit you. Like it's not things you want to do. So you talked about like, I don't want to own a bunch of homes and rent them out and this and that. And so I was like, okay, I like this, because really, like, it's only talked about maybe a couple different ways to invest. You invest in stocks or you invest in real estate. And if you don't know stocks, I mean, it's kind of scary. So then what do you have left, or do you just not invest at all, or is it just art? Like, so I wanted you to talk a little bit. I don't think you dug in too much on what creative ways you actually started investing and how you found those ways, or what you're planning to do. So I wanted you to talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So this year, actually, really backtrack really quickly.
Yes.
So each year, for my birthday, I set a word of intention, right? So I stopped doing that like at 12 midnight on January 31st, because I'm like, I'm not really connected to that. That doesn't like really, when the clock strikes 12, like that doesn't give anything to me. But sorry for anyone's birthday who is
it's not the real New Year. It's Chinese New Year. Just in case anyone is wondering, it's Chinese New Year. That's the actual New Year.
Okay. So my New Year is on my birthday, which so every year I set an intention, and for my 24th birthday, I turned 24 on the 24th, so my golden year. I set out the intention of, or my word was creativity, right? And finding creative ways or understanding that there's creativity built in everything that we do. And just because somebody makes money their way, that doesn't mean that that's the way that I need to do it, or or the way that I should replicate. And I was finding that a lot of times when I'm looking for ways to increase my wealth, it was just buy a house or invest in stocks. And it's like there has to be something more fun. There has to be something
Yeah.
that like speaks to me. Like I don't want to be somebody's landlord. That does not sound fun for me.
It's not
It
always.
doesn't. Like my friends and I want to like buy a Airbnb, but I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I don't want to have to do anything. I can give you money, but I'm just not very connected into the whole landlord thing. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So this year, I actually invested the most money I've ever invested in my life. I've invested, my investment accounts hit almost $4,000. That was great. And that was just like in the stock market, but ETFs, so something very, very low and slow burning. But then I also decided to start doing some equity investing, or AKA micro angel investing. And how I got into that was I wanted to make an impact, and I wanted to start finding out about small businesses and getting on the ground floor, right? So when you're thinking of like how people say, oh, I wish I would have gotten into Facebook when Mark Zuckerberg was, writing
At
on his
university, yeah.
yeah, in university, writing on the window, like Eduardo, gave him the first couple thousand. Like, I have $1,000. I wish I could have gave Mark Zuckerberg $1,000 back then. How much money would I have today? Well, in America, I don't know how other places work, but now they have something called equity crowdfunding. And the Jobs Act passed a couple years ago, or maybe this year. Don't quote me on that one. But the Job Act is the correct act. And they actually just increased how much a business can crowdfund. But what it means now is that me as a 25-year-old, 24-year-old that does not have $1 million net worth, I can be an angel investor, and I can put $500, I can put $1,000 into these small up and coming businesses that, maybe in the next 5 years are going to be multi-million-dollar businesses.
And Mykail, when you say sorry to interrupt you, but angel
Yeah.
investing, for those who don't know what angel investing is, can you give us
Yeah. So an angel investor is the easiest way to explain it is someone who gives a check to a startup business. And most accredited, and most of the time you have to be an accredited angel investor. And to be an accredited angel investor, you have to have either $1 million net worth. So that means all of your assets combined minus any of your liabilities must equal over $1 million, which, is a lot, but that's technically what a millionaire is. Or your income has to be, I believe it's like around like over $250,000 a year. So you have to be relatively wealthy, right?
US dollars,
US dollars.
strong US dollars.
So you have to be relatively wealthy before you had to be relatively wealthy to be an accredited investor, which that meant only the rich continue to get richer. Only the rich get to have this insider information or know about when these businesses are needing funding or when these businesses are going to start growing.
Right.
And that sucks. But I think Arlen Hamilton is one of she's so smart. I love listening to her talk, and she said something to the effect of, they made it so easy, like you could relatively buy $1,000 worth of lottery tickets, right? And it's a much lower chance that you are going to get a great investment off of a lottery ticket versus investing your money into a small business who really needs it anyway. You know, a lot of Black businesses, why they can't survive, not even just Black business, Black, woman owned, all of that, you know, most of the VC money goes towards the white guys' sons.
Yep.
So it's not the old white guys.
We
mean,
know this conversation well.
Quibi literally just lost billions of dollars. Quibi lost
Why?
$1 billion. Quibi?
Why? Yeah, why?
They shut down.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me the story. I don't know this. Why? Why did they shut down?
So, do you know Quibi, right?
Yeah. The small network.
Yeah, the tiny network that like they were positioned to basically have 8-minute shows on your phone. And then they had like people like Rachel Hollis, The Nod, Shamboody, all of these people, and then they had like major productions also on this phone. I mean on this app. They ran out of money. They lost and they ended up having to shut down their entire operation. So maybe like in like October, I believe they shut down, but they lost over $1 billion in investments. And like that money could have gone to women businesses, that money could have gone to Black owned businesses, but because this old white man said that this idea worked, they gave him all of that money, and now it's a flop. And he's like, oh, you know, I'm ready to go around and, you know, work on my next business. Yeah. And there are literally like hundreds of other founders that have been struggling trying to get that type of money because no one will listen to them, literally because they are Black or because they are a woman or because they are Latinx.
Marginalized. Yeah, they're in marginalized communities.
For you about the crowdfunding, or at least how it works. So I guess when I think about certain crowdfunding platforms that I've seen, and I don't know if it's anything close to the angel investing crowdfunding way that that's structured or system, but usually someone will say, okay, I need X amount of dollars, and then people, you know, put in, and some places will only give that money if you reach a certain amount. Is it the same way, or is it just that it just goes in and it's kind of like just like a micro investment?
That one, I'm not sure. I don't have a business that I'm actively growing on there, but I have invested into some. Well, both of the companies that I have invested into, they both reached their cap. So I guess I can't really compare that one. But I'm not 100% sure. I wish I had that answer.
Okay.
But it really does work that same way. So they have a cap. So say, you know, Bombshells wants to raise $100,000 for this round, right? And the lowest you are going to accept, that's something that's a little different, you know, like on a regular equity, you know, crowdfunding platform, it'll probably say like, oh, like, you know, give $1 if you can, but you the businesses will set the cap. So maybe the lowest you can invest, I think a couple of the ones I did, both the ones I did were like $250, and then they'll have tiers. So at the basic $250 level tier, you just, you know, you get the emails and you can get invited to the mixers. And then if you invest $500, there's another thing. If you invest $1,000, then you get something a little bit more, and then, you know, you can be a top investor or whatever like that. And you, as the company grows, you get to see their growth, you get to be a part of their growth, and then you know, maybe in the next 5 years when they're ready to move on another route, you get cashed out. And it's like you were literally able to be a part of that growth and
of their success.
Really cool. So it works twofold. Like you get your money, You get your investment back sometimes. Not every business works, but then that also goes into reading and understanding. I get excited about learning about companies and learning about investors and learning about what they've done to create this business. And if you're growing your money, you should be excited about the ways that you are investing your money. And that is why I wanted to learn more about micro angel investing, because it excites me. It's super exciting to be a part of not only the start of a startup, but to be a part of their growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend who works in ethical investing, and he's I think he's 22 now, and he's just amazing at it. And we talk a lot about the shape of the world, the state of the world, how we're going to make a meaningful contribution. And I really like that what you're doing is providing us and all these bombshell babes that are listening with a framework to kind of say, okay, find out what it is that you love so that you can investigate it further, so that you're passionate about making those decisions on your own money, but also supporting what you believe in. And I think that's so much more the way of the future than traditional, hierarchical, monolithic type methods, but it still works within a structure that makes sense to those monoliths. It's like, we're still doing the same thing. We're playing your game, but we're playing it in a very different way. And I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many different platforms. So Start Engine, Republic, there is even a Black owned one. Oh, and every time I've tried to think of something, it just
we can put it. You can text it to us later, and we can put it in our resources at the end.
Yes, I hate when things slip my mind, but it's so many different resources and platforms, and like I said, there is so many different industries. So for me, I enjoy SaaS companies. So that is a service as a systems as a service. Yes, systems as a service is SaaS. So I've invested into SaaS. I like technology, so that's something that I do. But there are so many different ones, really from food and drink to tech platforms to apps. There's so many different industries that at this point it's not whether you want to or if it's for you, because it absolutely is. Another platform that I loved is Black Girls Ventures, and this is really where I started kind of understanding what it even looked like to start angel investing. I went to an event and it was phenomenal. So they had, and it's not just Black women, but most of the companies that were there were Black women owned. There were also some women owned, and some like Asian women, some Latinx women. So it's mostly women owned, and it was a pitch competition. So they pitched. They told us about their event, and then the great thing, or not their event, their business. The thing that I loved about how they chose the winner, it was not like the judges just said like, "Oh, I like this company better." It was, we actually gave money to the women who pitched to us. So we had that list. We sat through all of the speakers, and the one who and the company who raised the most money after their pitch, within like I guess like an hour, that is who won, and then they won the big check. And I was like, I loved it. I thought it was so great, and it took it out of not just like the judges who are these specific people. The judges gave feedback, but it was ultimately the audience who voted, and then they also got to keep that money for their business.
So even if they didn't win, they still got the money that those people chose to put in. See, this is the concept of generosity mentality that I can't wrap my head around. Other people and traditional methods being, whether it be financially or otherwise, the attitude is, let's hold a competition, and the one person who wins this, then gets all the big prize. It's like, well, why don't we redistribute that? And so whoever's got ideas that other people like, you go do those things. And then that, you know, you still have an element of that major winner going away with the sponsored check or whatever it is that's funded. I love that, because everybody goes away a little bit better off and has also found relationships that are perfect for them.
Well, and it's aligning money and values. And I think a lot of times that's really misaligned. Like, I think a lot of people don't even see how, conceptually, how their money and values can be aligned. It seems very divisive sometimes. So it's so cool to think about ways that you really can make your money work for you, but you can make it work for others, and you can, like you said, support businesses you believe in. And I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and what you said, Raquel, about the money and values, I think that's something that I like to teach people, and I like to let people know that when this lie of money is not emotional, I hate that lie, and I have to call bullshit on it.
Yeah.
I truly do, because the way we spend money and the way we react, our psychological brains react to when you receive money, when you have to spend money, those kind of things. It's all emotional. Maybe, you know, you have to realize what the emotion is and what the trigger is. That is one thing, but we are emotional creatures. Humans are emotional, and therefore we should work with our emotions to suppress them when it comes to our spending and when it comes to our money.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree more. Oh, okay. I have another question for you, and it also comes back from when I was listening to you on a interview. You know what? It was funny. I listened to the episode, and I just had so many driving, had so many things coming into my mind. I'm like, I want to ask this. I want to ask this. I'm gonna cyber stalk her and ask her to tell me. Okay. So you talked about conscious buying. And I thought that was a concept that I 100% wanted to get behind, and I'd really love for you to expand on. Um, and I'd like to kind of maybe talk about, I don't know if you really have set numbers, but maybe how much of your salary should be towards saving, how much towards debt, and how much a little bit expendable. It probably depends on where you are in your life, so it might not be very specific, but I really liked how you weaved the theme of conscious buying in through that. Um, so I'm not going to say anymore. You dig into that.
Yeah, so I am all about conscious buying and being intentional with how you are spending your money, and that just goes back to the emotions that I tie into what I do with my money, right? So number one, I'm gonna answer the breakdown. So I do not follow that the 20 50 30 20 rule, and here's why. It is super vague. It is not helpful, and then it also leaves people, I think it leaves too much room for shame and misunderstanding, right? I like to go by a slightly different but a lot more specific breakdown allocation. So my allocation goes from your non-negotiables, so, or number one, your survival, right? Mm-hmm. So 45% of your money should go to survival. So that's your food, water, shelter, things that you kind of need to not die is what.
This is like, I don't know why this is so shocking to me, but I've never heard of money broken down this way. And I really like it.
Because you need money to not die. And some people don't think that, but I need money to continue to survive. So 40% is going to my survival, right? And then 25% will go to your non-negotiables. So your non-negotiables are things that you need not to survive, but you need them to thrive, right? So, am I going to die? No. But am I going to be a less sufficient adult? Maybe. So like your cell phone bill, your Wi-Fi, even though I know that is subjective, a lot of this stuff is, but like for me, I need my Wi-Fi because how else am I going to get my work done? My Wi-Fi is how I make money, and some people don't think of that. Some people can go without a cell phone. I don't know who can do that in 2020,
I
but
don't know those people.
if you can and you are under the age of 65, I would love to have a chat with you. So so that'll be, and then your transportation, and I will also throw your debt payment into your non-negotiables. And this is why. For most part, if you're going through a hard time, like we're seeing, especially with the COVID, you can get some type of relief. But as we're also seeing with COVID, now these companies are like, okay, time's up. Like I feel like we've given you enough relief. Like I went to Trader Joe's yesterday during the whole pandemic. They were not charging the 5 cent for the bag in DC, and then yesterday they charged me. So I was like, oh, okay, Trader Joe's. So it seems as though
I see you.
Yeah, if Trader Joe's is doing it,
back. And
We're
Trader
back.
Joe's was one of those that they were really keeping that. They were trying to give as much back as they could, but they were like, you know what? Now they're charging 5 cent for the bags again. So I'm just saying, your time is going to be very limited when it comes to your debt payment. So I will put your debt payment into one of those non-negotiables because bare minimum, you have to pay that minimum balance to keep yourself current. All right, and then the next part would be about. I suggest 15% savings, and that seems low because in the 50-30-20 rule, the 20% they say is for savings, but that's not true. In that sense, the 20 is for your savings, your debt payment. And it's like, well, and you're investing. So savings, investing, and debt payment are all in that 20%. And it's like, if I'm putting all of that into my debt payment, how much do I really have left to save? And then if I'm putting everything as debt payment and saving, how much do I really have left to invest? So that's why I don't like that way either. And then the last two 10%, so you have 10% for your negotiables, and that's just for, anything that's going to make you happy, your extra happiness. Like you don't need it. Okay, I'm going to be fine if I don't get my hair done. But do I want it? Yes, because I look a little
You're
ugly
even
right
finer
now.
when you get it done.
Exactly. I look a little ugly right now and I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
Back to the feeling. I'm going to feel better. And it's going to be more efficient if my hair is done because then I'll be finished ready in the morning much quicker.
Yeah.
And then the last 10% is for investing. And I make it very specific, especially to anyone who ever learns from me, any of my clients. I make it very specific that investing needs to be part of that breakdown, because if you just lump it into that, again, that extra 20%, then it doesn't get done. You have to make sure that you take that 10%. And like I said, this has been the best investing year that I've had. And it started by me literally just taking 10% of my check and putting it into my brokerage account. That was the first step. And a lot of people, they want to wait to invest, or that, they rather, if I have $10,000, then when I invest, it's going to be much better. It's going to be this bigger thing, but you're missing out on the compound interest. And if you think that, a specific stock, or if you think that a specific ETF is a great investment now, if you buy it now, there is no such thing as timing the market correctly. I don't care what anyone says. If you buy it now and maybe it goes down, but it goes back up, or by this time next year, it is doubled in price. Like, why would you not want to get it while it's cheaper and catch it on the ride up versus trying to save this money and think that buying 10,000 stocks at once or buying 100 stocks shares at once is going to make the bigger impact. You can buy one share at a time for a month, and that works just the same. It's still investing, and it's still making your money work for you. There's no way that you can become a millionaire. There's no way that you can become rich by just putting your money into a savings account. You have to, investing has to be a part of your financial plan. And that is the only way that you can beat inflation, and everything else that is working against you, when you're just putting your money into a savings account.
And I think it helps with the guilt factor, because I think what you were saying about when you put that the savings and the investing and the debt all in one group, then you have this guilt and you're like, well, I shouldn't be investing this money when I still owe money. So since you're allocating that in the same pie slice, so to speak, it's a lot easier to, at least it would be for me, to just be like, oh, I'm just going to throw it at my debt then. I'm just going to throw it at my debt. I won't, even if it doesn't make financial sense, because
Right.
maybe it just doesn't make sense because the interest rate or whatever. But yeah, I think you would definitely, it would be easier to fall into that route.
Yeah, absolutely. And then look at your interest rate. If your credit card interest rate is, let's give it a bad one. Let's say around 25%. That's pretty high. So if you have a credit card that's 25%, that is a high percentage, but can you figure out a way to earn money that's going to give you a 25% return? Like, it's a give and take, and a lot of people, we're not elevating our thinking when it comes to money. We think of it very linear, as in the more money I save, the more money I have, but there has to be a way that you are making money while you are not actively doing things, because I'm lazy. I want money to continue to come to me while I don't have to do as much work for it.
Me too.
And is that not the dream? Is that
Right?
not where we want to be? I that is how I imagine my life running. And I want people to, again, I want people to start elevating their thinking when it comes to money, when it comes to making and earning money. We have to redefine what it looks like and what it looks like to invest money.
I think also the other thing I would say on that is one thing I've really learned over the past couple years is the power of momentum. And that's the other reason why I really like what you're saying about how you're breaking everything up, because I think a lot of people, especially when they're in a rut and they're in debt, they are in debt mind, which is like a negative space. And it can be really, really hard to picture yourself outside of that. And especially when you have things that are high interest, like what you're saying, you can just feel like you're on that rat race and that you're going nowhere. But when you start to see momentum, it's really exciting. And then people double up, and then people are like, I don't need to go out as much. Like, and maybe that is when they start curbing their spending a bit because they see movement. But if you grow up in a household or something like that where you don't see what savings could and should look like, it can be really hard to, you have no models, you have no role models, so it can be really hard to actually start seeing that that's possible for you. And I think by putting that money aside for investing, it's actually just showing you what can happen at the same time that you're paying that stuff off. So even just on a mental note, I think that that's a really strong way to do it.
Another really great, very simple way. I leave money in every purse that I have, and I have a lot of purses now. And my mom used to do that also, and she also does it where she leaves money in like pockets and jacket pockets or whatever. It is a way to show your mind and to tell yourself inadvertently that money is all around you and that money is attracted to you,
I
right?
love that.
Mykail, you just gave me shivers.
It is something like, and every time, like, I have a couple jackets, I have a couple purses where I know that there's money in it, and I never spend it. I see the cash. I'm like, ooh, I got money. Like, I'm rich. Like, like when you wash a pair of jeans and then you put them on and there's $1 in the pocket. And then maybe you get even more excited because maybe there was a $10 bill in the pocket. And then you go and spend it. Instead of spending that, I'll just put it back and I'm like, ooh, I'm rich. And that really tells your mind, that puts yourself in the headspace that money is all around you. And I want people to get into that aspect of having money saved in different places, having money all around you because you are rich. Like, you have to get into the habit of seeing money. And even like, listen, whenever I see a penny on the ground, I pick it up.
Yes.
Because money is attracted to me and I take it in whatever way that the universe decides to give it to me. And if the universe says that this penny is what I need, then I'm going to pick up the penny. Like, I keep money. If you see in my room, I keep like a little piggy bank where I just dump change and stuff like that. Like, I see money all the time. And we have to start getting into the habit of it because what's happening is that money is digital, right? And everything it's on your phone. You don't have it. It's tucked away into like, one of your little money folder that you never look at because it's not anywhere near any of the social media apps that you're always on. And you have to start putting your priming your environment. That's what it's called. I'm really huge into habit building. I am a fan of Charles Duhigg, James Clear, Atomic Habits, Power of Habit, all of that.
Yeah.
And I really get into their teachings because, again, it's a psychological thing, and we live in a digital age. So this is an exclusive, right?
Yes.
So I talk about environment priming, right? So that is something that James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, is basically setting yourself up to win, but in your environment, right? So if you want to make sure you drink water more often, you put a glass of water by your bed so that you always, right?
I have mine here. It's gone now.
You put your, right, but that is to intentionally make you drink water, right? So you want to be more intentional about your finances. You have to start, one, making money more visual in your life. So number one, like I said, hiding your money, putting your money around you, having a place where you physically see money every day. But then in your your cell phone, prime that environment. So my guess is most people have their apps, right? All of your money banking apps are together, right? Or they're in like one space and one folder that says like banks, right? Money, whatever.
Yeah.
Then how often do you click on that? You don't. So then if you're using an iPhone, or I'm pretty sure Android has it too, where it shows you like what apps you use the most, right? So on your most used app, put your banking app right next to it. What does that do? That primes your environment. So even if you are not physically going into your banking app every day, you see it. You are reminded that there is money there. You have to keep reminding yourself. And it's just like a small sticky. If you want to take it a step further, make your money goal your password. If or
now
like
everyone's going to be able to hack into my $1 million. They'll be like, this isn't a strong enough password.
Or it could be, so then that's when you get more specific. So, go on Zillow and pick out your dream house and then figure out what the down payment would have to be. Or,
God.
do
Yes.
those kind of things to visualize where you want to be. And then that can be your numeric password. Or if there's a specific money goal that you have for the year, do an alpha password and put, pay off whatever, pay off debt, or, you know, invest $5,000, or, you know, have those things set up, because now that's your password. Now every time you open your phone, you're thinking about that. If you want to take it a step further, make your vision board and have that picture on your phone, have it as your background. Like, you have to keep reminding yourself. You look at your phone more than you look at people, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in this age, you know, we're on social media all the time. It's time to start priming your environment, because your digital environment is just as important as your physical environment.
I love that you said that. I just set up my office, and my mother gave me a Chinese feng shui money sword. Literally, it's a sword made out of ancient coins.
Cool.
Like traditional Chinese coins. I know I should have brought it, because I'll put it on a story and tag you in it, Mykail, so you can see it. But it's a traditional thing. I mean, I'm Chinese, so of course the tradition most people know is we love money, and but it's everywhere. And I have these little old Chinese coins that are typically a Chinese New Year thing. They're like traditional old Chinese bars, but there's these little tiny ones that are on my entrance way, and now I have this literal sword of money. So you can also find some nice creative Chinese gifts if you would so desire them.
And because like these ideas, these are not new. Like they are practiced in so many different cultures, and these are really ancestral practices to keep money around you. And it's like, you know, sometimes we have to get back to that, and obviously our ancestors knew something.
And smart people, they've survived long enough for us to be born into this madness.
Exactly. So and our minds work so strong. So putting that, I think that is something that's super important, is to start priming your environment, making money something that is not taboo, but something that you see, because you are a rich person. Everyone is rich. Everyone can attain wealth. Everyone can be a millionaire. It is not it's not untouchable. It's not unthinkable. Because once you start thinking it, then you're going to start believing it. When you start believing it, then you can act on it. And then when you start acting on it, then it comes true.
Oh gosh, I just adore you.
This is so good.
That's a perfect way to wrap that up. And Mykail, I normally do a little lightning round, so I'm going to recap in a 20 seconds of what you said, but I was just furiously writing notes here.
I saw her writing the whole time, so I don't know if it's going to be 20 seconds.
I will try really hard. So you're a first-gen graduate, really, really proudly. Money shows up in everything. And that's why you love it. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to know what's going on. We relinquish our control so often when it comes to money, but we need to really build a deep relationship with money with the people who surround us, as well as just ourselves. You've spoken about, surrounding yourself with people who look like you when you're looking to try and create a life of success and of thriving. And remember that there always has to be a pioneer. I just love that sentence so much. I love that you also put friends in different pockets. You have strategic, intentional friends. I love that you have a word of intention every year. That's this year for you was creativity. And I think that's an amazing way to start every year, whichever you decide is your new year. Rather than just stock, equity, and typical investment, you can look into micro angel investing. You can look into equity crowdfunding. If you're growing your money, you should be looking at the ways that make you excited. You spoke about a couple of references like Black Girls Ventures and some other ones that we'll list later. You talk a lot about conscious buying and throw out the 50-30-20 rule, the survival rule of instead you've implemented those 5 survival non-negotiables, and then what was the third one? I can't read my own writing. And investing, I'll list them all afterwards. But you look at more creative ways to not be so linear about your investment. Raquel made a really good point about the power of momentum and about coming at it from a generosity mentality. And I love that you show that money is all around you, and you gave us some really great ways to understand that money's digital, so we don't see it, so we need to make a conscious effort to prime our environments. We'll list Atomic Habits. You put your banking app next to your most used app and make money something. What I heard was make money something that you see in your future by making it a part of your present. Bit more than 20 seconds. There was a lot to cover.
There was a lot. We talked about a lot. That is, yes.
That
all
was
of that.
jam-packed. That was amazing.
So amazing. Mykail, thank you so much. We'd love to keep promoting what you're doing, connect you with people that would love to do your courses, and we'd love to have you back again in the future if you will have
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at the Boujie Budgeter. So THEBOUJIE, because Boujie with a G looks like boogie to me, and Budgeter is BUDGETER. So the Boujie Budgeter on Instagram, and everywhere else is just Boujie Budgeter. And yeah, I'm always excited. I do a lot of live virtual events. No courses just yet, but I do have a workbook. So if you go on to bougiebudgets.com/shop, you can get the workbook. Special price for $27. Regular price is $39. So it takes you through if you're a beginner, this is for you. If you're not a beginner, I'm working on some stuff for people who are like trying to get to that next level, who are a little bit past the beginning stages. But I am always super excited to talk about money, to talk about things that all relate to money, which is everything, because everything has to do with money. And I just thank you so much, ladies, for inviting me and for chatting with me today.
It was our pleasure.
Yay!
Thanks for listening, bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.